The Vanishing Fleet's commander Zixtal of the Hegemony Intelligence Division stared at the holographic display floating before her command chair, her 4 arms manipulating data streams with practiced efficiency. The numbers made no sense. In her 3 centuries of military service, she had never encountered anything like this statistical impossibility. "Run the analysis again," she commanded her aide, Lieutenant Krishuna, whose scaled hide reflected the blue glow of the tactical displays. There must be an error in the data compilation. The young officer's claws clicked nervously against his console. "Ma'am, I've verified the record 17 times. The data is accurate. Over the past 400 Earth years, 47 separate military expeditions from 31 different civilizations have departed for the Sol system with hostile intent. 0 have returned, 0 survivors, 0 distress signals, 0 wreckage recovered." Zixtal's primary eyes narrowed while her secondary pair continued monitoring the tactical readouts. The implications were staggering. The missing fleets represented the combined military might of species that had conquered entire star clusters. The Vorth Empire's decimation fleet alone had annihilated 12 worlds before vanishing near Earth. The crystalline hegemony's reality-shaping armada had restructured solar systems to their will, yet they too had simply ceased to exist upon approaching the human homeworld. "Show me the composition breakdown," Zixtal ordered, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had climbed the ranks through pure tactical brilliance rather than political maneuvering. The hologram shifted, displaying detailed statistics. That made her skin crawl with unease. Total missing vessels: approximately 8.3 million ships ranging from scout cruisers to planet-killer dreadnoughts. Combined crew complement: nearly 15 billion beings from 47 different species. Estimated total firepower: sufficient to sterilize 300 inhabited worlds. Lieutenant Krishuna's voice trembled slightly as he continued. "The mathematical probability of this occurring through conventional military defense is effectively 0. Even if the humans possess technology centuries beyond our understanding, some evidence of conflict should remain. Energy signatures, debris fields, quantum echoes of massive weapons discharge. We detect nothing." Zixtal activated her personal communication array, establishing a secure connection to High Command. The face of Grand Admiral Vextar materialized. In miniature before her, his expression grim beneath his ceremonial battle scars. "Admiral, I've completed my analysis of the Sol system anomaly. The situation is unprecedented. I recommend immediate suspension of all planned military operations against Earth, pending further investigation." A Grand Admiral's mandibles clicked in annoyance. "Commander, the Hegemony Council has already approved Operation Starfall. 3 battle groups are being assembled for departure next cycle. The humans' defensive capabilities, whatever they may be, cannot withstand the combined might of our most advanced warships. Sir, with respect, that's exactly what the Xanth Collective believed when they sent their void renders. It's what the Nexus Authority thought when they deployed their quantum disruptor fleet. Every civilization that has attempted to conquer Earth possessed technology that should have been more than sufficient. They all vanished without a trace. A long pause stretched between them, filled only by the ambient hum of the ship's systems. Finally, Vextar spoke. "What do you propose, Commander?" "Send me 1 ship, minimal crew, scientific configuration. Let me discover what's actually happening in that system before we commit 3 battle groups to the same fate." The Grand Admiral's expression softened slightly. Zixtal had served under him for decades, and her tactical insights had saved countless Hegemony lives. "Very well. But you'll take the Nighttalker, not a science vessel. If you encounter hostile action, I want you able to fight your way out." 3 days later, Commander Zixtal found herself aboard the stealth corvette Nighttalker. Approaching the outer edge of the Sol system, with her hand-picked crew of 12 specialists. The ship's advanced cloaking systems would theoretically allow them to observe Earth's defenses without triggering whatever had eliminated the previous fleets. Approaching the theoretical engagement zone where previous expeditions disappeared, reported Navigation Officer Tishra from her position at the helm. All systems showing normal operation. No sign of defensive installations or energy fields. Zixtal studied the long-range sensor displays with growing confusion. The Sol system appeared utterly normal. A yellow star with 9 planets, numerous asteroids, and the standard debris one would expect from a developing system. Earth itself showed the characteristic signatures of a flourishing civilization. Electromagnetic emissions indicating industrial activity, orbital structures suggesting space-based infrastructure, and the thermal patterns of billions of inhabitants. What it didn't show was any evidence of the massive defensive grid that should have been necessary to eliminate 47 invasion fleets. Take us closer, Zixtal ordered. Full passive sensors. I want detailed scans of every object larger than a shuttle in this system. As they approached Earth's orbital space, the mystery only deepened. The planet possessed a few hundred satellites, most appearing to be communication relays and scientific instruments. There were several small space stations, clearly designed for research and habitation rather than military purposes. The largest orbital installation appeared to be some sort of industrial platform, its energy signature consistent with peaceful manufacturing rather than weapon systems. "Commander," called out sensor specialist Vorthek, his voice tight with disbelief, "I'm detecting no military installations whatsoever. No orbital weapons platforms, no defensive satellites, no energy shields. Their space infrastructure appears designed entirely for civilian purposes." Zixtal felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. Either the humans possessed stealth technology so advanced it could fool hegemony sensors, or Earth truly was as defenseless as it appeared. Neither possibility explained how they had eliminated dozens of invasion fleets. "Incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Rel Maya. "It's coming from Earth itself, broadcasting on standard diplomatic frequencies." The view screen activated, displaying the image of a human female with dark hair and kind eyes. When she spoke, the universal translator rendered her words imperfect. "Hegemony Standard. Greetings, Hegemony Vessel Nighttalker. This is Director Sarah Chun of Earth's Interstellar Relations Department. We've been monitoring your approach and want to welcome you to our solar system. We understand you may have questions about the fate of previous visitors who came here with hostile intentions. We'd be happy to provide answers if you're willing." To listen, the bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of life support systems. Lieutenant Krishinia's scales had gone pale with shock. They know we're here. They know our ship's name. How is that possible? We're cloaked. Zixtal studied the human on the screen. Director Chun appeared completely relaxed, showing no signs of fear or aggression, despite addressing what should have been an invisible alien warship. Her expression held something that Zixtal found deeply unsettling: pity. "This is Commander Zixtal of the Hegemony Intelligence Division," she responded carefully. "We are here on a reconnaissance mission to investigate the disappearance of multiple military expeditions in this system. We mean no harm to your world." Director Chun smiled, and there was genuine warmth in the expression. "We know, Commander. Your psychological profile suggests you're here seeking answers rather than conquest. That's why we're extending this invitation. Would you be willing to come aboard our orbital station? We have some people you might want to meet." "What people?" Zixtal asked, though she already suspected the answer would change everything. "The crews of those missing fleets you're investigating. They're not dead, Commander. They're not prisoners. They're not even lost. They just found something better than whatever they came here to take." The words hit Zixtal like a physical blow. 47 invasion fleets, 15 billion beings, 8 million ships. All still alive. All still here. But if that was true, where were they? And why hadn't they returned to their home worlds? You're saying the missing expeditions are still in this system? Zixtal managed to ask. Not exactly in this system, Director Chun replied, her smile growing wider. But close enough. Commander, what would you say if I told you that Earth's greatest defense isn't a weapon at all? What if I told you that we solved the problem of invasion fleets by offering them something so valuable that conquest became irrelevant? Zixtal's mind raced through possibilities. Resources? Technology? Knowledge? What could possibly convince battle-hardened warriors to abandon their missions and never contact their home worlds again? I would say that sounds impossible, she answered honestly. Most of our visitors say that initially. But then we show them what we've built, and impossibility becomes inevitability. Commander, 47 civilizations have sent their finest warriors to take what they believed we possessed. Instead, we gave them something infinitely more valuable. Hope for a future beyond scarcity, beyond conflict, beyond the limitations they never imagined could be overcome. Director Chun leaned forward slightly, her expression becoming more serious. The question now is whether you're prepared to see the truth. Because once you understand what we're offering, you'll face the same choice every previous expedition has faced. Return to your old life with this knowledge, or step into something unprecedented. Asterisk the truth revealed. The docking bay of Earth Station Harmony defied every expectation Zixtal had formed during her approach. Instead of the sterile military functionality she anticipated, the facility resembled a garden more than a space station. Bioluminescent plants from dozens of worlds created a living tapestry along the walls, while artificial gravity systems so advanced they felt completely natural allowed beings to move with fluid grace, regardless of their species' origin. What struck her most profoundly was the diversity of life present. As she walked alongside Director Chon through the station's corridors, Zixtal observed representatives from species she recognized as former invaders of Earth. Vorth warriors worked alongside crystalline engineers on some sort of dimensional mathematics that made her head spin. Xanth collective drones, normally bound in hive mind unity, moved as individuals while maintaining obvious happiness and purpose. How is this possible? Zixtal whispered, her translator ensuring Director Chun could understand despite her reduced volume. The Xanth cannot exist as individuals. Their entire biology depends on collective consciousness. Director Chun's smile held the patience of someone who had explained this wonder many times before. That's what everyone believes, including the Xanth themselves. But individual consciousness was never impossible for them. It was simply suppressed by necessity. When you can provide unlimited resources and remove the survival pressures that created their hive evolution, amazing things become possible. They entered a vast chamber that seemed to extend far beyond what the station's external dimensions should have allowed. The space was filled with beings from across the galaxy, working on projects that appeared to involve manipulating the fundamental forces of reality itself. Zixtal watched in stunned silence as a team of mixed species assembled what appeared to be a miniature star, complete with stable fusion reactions and controllable energy output. "Welcome to Project Infinity," Director Chon announced. "This is where we've been developing solutions to the universal problems that drive species to conquest in the first place. Scarcity, resource competition, territorial disputes, the fear that there isn't enough for everyone to thrive." A familiar figure approached from across the chamber, and Zixtal's heart nearly stopped beating. Admiral Krexthiel of the Vorth Decimation Fleet stood before her, but transformed. The ritualistic scarification that marked his species' warrior caste had been replaced by intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow with inner light. His eyes, once cold with the calculating fury of a perfect killer, now held the warm glow of someone who had found purpose beyond destruction. "Commander Zixtal," he said, his voice carrying none of the threatening undertones she remembered from intelligence briefings about his fleet's campaign. "I was hoping we'd have a chance to speak. Your tactical analyses of our Vorth strategies were quite impressive. We studied them extensively after arriving here." "Admiral," Zixtal managed, her training keeping her voice steady despite her shock. "Intelligence reports indicated your fleet was destroyed 4 years ago while attempting to establish orbital supremacy over Earth." Krexthal laughed, a sound she had never heard from a Vorth warrior. "Destroyed? No. Transformed? Absolutely. Commander, what would you say if I told you that in the past 4 years, I've accomplished more than I did in 3 centuries of conquest? What if I told you that the satisfaction of creation exceeds the thrill of destruction by orders of magnitude I never imagined possible?" Director Chun gestured toward a viewing portal that opened on what should have been empty space. Instead, Zixtal found herself looking at a structure so vast and complex it challenged her ability to process what she was seeing. Geometric patterns larger than moons rotated through dimensions her eyes couldn't fully track, while energy streams of colors that had no names flowed between components that seemed to exist in multiple realities simultaneously. "That's where most of our new residents live and work," Director Chun explained. "It exists in folded spacetime, accessible from our reality but not constrained by its limitations. Inside that structure, physics works according to rules we've learned to rewrite. Death is optional. Resources are unlimited. Every being can pursue their highest potential without competing with others for survival." Zixtal stared at the impossible construction, her analytical mind struggling to comprehend what she was witnessing. "You've created a pocket universe." "We've created 17 of them, actually," Admiral Krexthul interjected. "Each one designed to support different forms of life and consciousness. The Crystalline Collective is working on their 8th iteration of a reality where thought directly shapes matter. The Nexus Authority has built a dimension where time flows in all directions simultaneously, allowing them to experience existence from perspectives we never dreamed possible." "But why?" Zixtal asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why offer this to species that came to destroy you?" Director Chun's expression grew thoughtful. "Because we realized something that most civilizations never discover. The impulse to conquer usually comes from fear. Fear that there isn't enough, that survival requires taking from others, that the universe is fundamentally hostile to life. When you can demonstrate that none of those assumptions are true, aggression becomes irrelevant." She led Zixtal to another viewing station where dozens of beings worked together on what appeared to be stellar engineering projects. Every species that has come to Earth with hostile intent has done so because they believed conquest was necessary for their survival or advancement. When we show them alternatives they never imagined possible, most choose cooperation over domination. "Most?" Zixtal caught the qualifier. "About 93%, Admiral Krexthul replied. "Some beings are so committed to conflict that even unlimited resources and transcendent possibilities can't overcome their need to destroy. We've developed protocols for those cases as well." Director Chun's expression became more serious. "Those individuals are offered the same opportunities as everyone else, but in specialized environments where their destructive impulses can't harm others. Even the most aggressive beings usually find purpose when given constructive outlets for their energy." Zixtal felt the weight of impossible choices settling over her like a collapsing star. Everything she had believed about the nature of existence, about the necessity of competition and conflict, was being challenged by what she witnessed. The evidence before her suggested that scarcity and struggle were not inevitable aspects of life, but problems that could be solved through sufficient innovation and cooperation. What happens to those who choose to return to their home worlds? She asked. They're welcome to leave any time, Director Chun replied. We don't hold anyone against their will. But most who experience what we've built find it difficult to return to societies based on scarcity and competition. About 7% of our residents eventually go back to their original civilizations, usually as ambassadors or researchers sharing what they've learned. Admiral Krexthel nodded. I've considered returning to Vorth space several times. But when I compare the satisfaction of creating stellar nurseries where new life can flourish to the temporary thrill of destroying planets, there's no contest. Purpose and meaning turn out to be more addictive than conquest and domination. Zixtal walked to the viewing portal and stared out at the impossible structures existing in folded spacetime. Billions of beings who had come as conquerors now worked together on projects that redefined the boundaries of possibility. Species that had been mortal enemies for millennia collaborated on technologies that could transform entire realities. What about my crew? She asked finally. What about my obligations to the hegemony? Those are questions only you can answer, Director Chun replied gently. We can show you possibilities you never imagined, but we can't make your choices for you. What we can tell you is that every being who has stood where you're standing now has faced the same decision. Continue living in a universe defined by limitations and conflict, or step into something unprecedented. Zixtal thought about her life in hegemony service. Centuries of tactical analysis, of preparing for conflicts that seemed inevitable, of accepting that violence was simply the natural state of civilized beings. She had been good at her job, even found satisfaction in it. But had she ever experienced the kind of joy she saw in Admiral Krexthel's transformed features? If I choose to stay, she said slowly, what would happen to the intelligence about Earth's defenses that the hegemony expects me to provide? Director Chun exchanged a glance with Admiral Krexthel. That's actually why we're hoping you'll make a different choice than most of our previous visitors. Commander, Earth doesn't need to remain a mystery. We're ready to extend our invitation to the entire galaxy. But we need ambassadors, beings respected by their civilizations, who can help others understand that conquest has become obsolete. You're asking me to convince the hegemony to abandon their expansion plans. We're asking you to show them a better alternative, Admiral Krexthel corrected. The hegemony seeks to expand because they believe growth requires taking territory from others. What if they could expand into unlimited dimensions instead? What if every hegemony citizen could pursue their highest potential without competing for scarce resources? Zixtal stared out at the impossible structures one more time, watching beings she had once considered enemies working together to build wonders that exceeded her ability to comprehend. For the first time in her 3 centuries of existence, she began to imagine a future that wasn't defined by inevitable conflict. How long do I have to decide? She asked. Director Chun smiled. As long as you need. Time works differently in our pocket dimensions. You could spend years exploring what we've built and return to your ship only minutes after you left. Or you could make your choice now and live with the consequences. The only thing we ask is that you decide based on what you've actually seen, not on assumptions about what's possible. Zixtal looked around the chamber one final time, watching former conquerors work together on projects that could reshape reality itself. The choice before her would determine not just her own future, but potentially the fate of countless civilizations still trapped in cycles of scarcity and conflict. For the first time in centuries, she felt truly hopeful about what tomorrow might bring. Asterisk.